From WNYT Albany, News Channel 13, live at 11, begins right now.
Tonight's top story, Irene claims a life in the capital region, and thousands of people are on edge as two local dams teeter on the verge of collapse.
We have crews at those scenes and a whole lot more tonight. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Jim Cambridge.
And I'm Benita Zahn. Raging waters claim a life in Clarksville, and we're going to get you those details in just a moment.
First, we start with the latest on the storm track itself and how that may affect the rising waters here in the capital region, especially as we head into tomorrow. Let's get right to it now with Tim Drawbridge in the Weather Center. Tim?
Well, guys, Irene is now officially not a tropical storm any longer, so now it departs into eastern portions of Canada. However, we're still feeling its effects in terms of wind and still some lingering showers. The first morning live Doppler radar we go, and again, we do have some lingering showers, mainly north and east of the Capital District. Those showers will gradually come to an end on the overnight period. The wind will gradually ease up as well, and much better weather on the way as we head throughout the next several days. So by the time we wake up in the morning, pleasant sunshine, a light breeze, and a temperature in the low 50s, mid-60s by the noon hour, and up to 74 with some nice sunshine to allow for the drying process to take place not only for Monday, but like I already alluded to, over the next several days. More about the first 27-day forecast, and wow, a great deal of photos that we'll be showing you during the next 30 minutes. We've got a dozen here on the weather computer ready to show you. That's all coming up in about 10 minutes. Jim?
Oh, we do have some incredible pictures. Thank you, Tim. Well, we're going to have some nice weather tomorrow. Tonight, rising water is putting Capital Region residents in harm's way. The town of Niskayuna is ordering the evacuation of residents who live in low-lying areas along the Mohawk. And in Green Island, residents there are being urged to evacuate by 6 a.m. in advance of expected flooding.
On the Troy-Brunswick border, residents were evacuated when the torrential rain triggered a landslide at the intersection of Routes 2 and 66. But that's only part of the problem tonight in Rensselaer County. The dam at the Post-and-Kill Gorge is in danger of giving way. That's where Jessica Layton is live. She's got the developing story. Good evening, Jess.
Good evening, Jim and Benita, and this is the reason why parts of Troy are under a mandatory evacuation tonight. The mayor tweeting just a short time ago that the dam, which is not too far behind me, is in severe danger of breaking tonight. If that happens, it could cause tremendous damage all throughout the city of Troy. Around here, it's going to be a very long night. By mid-afternoon, the Post-and-Kill Gorge looked like a raging Niagara Falls.
You can see it down here. Look how fast it's going. It's coming right over through that fence.
It didn't take long for people living nearby to realize the dam was dangerously close to breaking.
Scary. Very scary.
Well, yeah, look.
I was in there getting ready to take my wife to work, and my neighbor said, you know, you gotta, it's getting flooded. I said, you gotta be kidding me.
But with her wind and rain, Tropical Storm Irene
Well, look at the winds.
was no joke to those living near water of any kind in the capital region.
It's kind of odd how it came all the way up. It followed the coast and then turns into New York. That was a big trip right there, and it does a lot of damage.
John DeVarn knows all about hurricanes. He survived one while out at sea off the coast of Florida in 1964.
I won't mess with it. Take every precaution to be safe.
Police in South Central Troy were doing exactly that, going door to door, telling people living in the area of Ida and 6th to take higher ground. While we were there, the Post-and-Kill Creek crept up on land about 100 yards in a half hour, leaving 6th Avenue looking like a lake.
Oh, this is amazing right here. This is the worst it's ever been.
And police officers in Troy are here on the scene right now, making sure everybody along 6th Avenue is getting out safely. We just saw one of the last residents, a man, come out with his dog. Now people are here huddled around waiting to see what happens. Again, waiting to see what that dam does and hoping that it holds. Jim and Benita, back to you.
Thanks, Jess.
Well, the Gilboa Dam is also in a precarious state, with rising waters testing its ability to withstand the storm's wrath. All roads over the Schoharie Creek are closed tonight.
Our crew out there was stranded for some time. Sabrina Dami is just back from Schoharie County. Sabrina, we're glad you're back with us safe and sound. It was a chore to get back here tonight, wasn't it?
It was a big chore, Jim. We drove around for almost 3 hours trying to somehow make our way around the Schoharie Creek to get back to Albany and bring you some of what we got today. After our 6 o'clock report, the water just crept up so quickly and the roads started closing immediately, and we found ourselves in a position I'm sure many residents were in. We didn't know where to go.
Water quickly spilled over the banks of the Schoharie Creek this afternoon. The flooding filled fields in Middleburg. The water posing more of a threat as the Gilboa Dam remained in jeopardy. Before roads closed, we got inside the village of Schoharie and spoke with residents who were being evacuated from an evacuation shelter.
The Gilboa Dam siren is going off, and we have to go to Cobleskill.
We can't stay here. They want us to leave our pets. It's not fair. She's 4 pounds. They won't even give us a ride to Cobleskill.
As the Schoharie Creek continued to swell this afternoon, the evacuation zone grew. It started in the middle of the village and then within an hour spread to outside of the village. And residents were eventually moved from the shelter at Schoharie Elementary School to many different shelters across the county.
My parents went back. They're trying to get back to the house, but I don't think they'll make it back. They're probably going to end up back down here again.
Where are you going to go?
With this bus and all these people wherever they're going.
And you're here by yourself?
Yep. This is the worst it's ever been. I've lived here 6 years, and this is horrible.
Again, the Gilboa Dam still a big concern tonight. Residents are urged to leave the area if they have not already. We heard from the Schoharie County Emergency Management Office, and they said people are trying to get around the barricades to get back to their homes. They said it's still very dangerous. Do not do that. Please evacuate the area for the time being. Jim and Benita, back to you.
All right, Sabrina, thank you. And I hope folks do take that warning to heart. We had a number of questions tonight from viewers about the Fort Hunter Bridge in Montgomery County. Well, the Sheriff's Department tells us it is not in any danger of collapsing.
One person is dead tonight after being swept away by the Anesquithaw Creek in Clarksville today. The creek, which is normally a trickle during the summer months, was a raging river today. Friends of Sharon Stein say that she had stepped out of her Slingerlands Avenue home to watch the river rise when a sudden surge of water took her right downstream. Clarksville residents, in the meantime, had to seek shelter from the flood at the old elementary school.
My house is flooded, the entire basement up to the floor, first floor. I've lived here 35 years, never seen anything like this.
Numerous roads remain closed tonight in southern Albany County. Also, lots of downed trees and power lines, and those have emergency crews out working some overtime tonight.
Tonight, Schenectady police say get out, telling residents of the Stockade neighborhood to evacuate. Schenectady officials are calling this a 500-year flood, with water expected to reach Erie Boulevard or Broadway tomorrow. Homes nearest the Mohawk River could be submerged under several feet of water. CDTA is providing emergency evacuation transportation to the City of Schenectady Bureau of Service. That's a Red Cross designated shelter. You can get the bus at the CDTA bus shelter on State Street and Washington Avenue, also at the Union College Park at 450 Knott Street. Along with the dozens of pictures you've sent us, we also have viewers sending us video, and this is probably the most dramatic. It's from the Walloomsac River in Bennington, Vermont. Police tell us this is one of at least 3 cars that were lost down the river. No one was inside any of the cars. Also, the bridge connecting Bennington and Woodford collapsed, landing on and crushing the main water line. So if you live in Bennington, you're urged to conserve water. We're told there is water, but enough to last only for a couple of days.
Also, some incredible pictures from Windham showing destruction caused by rain and swollen creeks. Photographer Lance Wheeler was told by the Windham fire chief downtown Windham has been wiped out. These are pictures taken from Main Street, where more than 10 inches of rain fell today. Further west, a house was ripped right off its foundation and swallowed by the fast-moving creek, slamming into a bridge. Waterville lead expecting flooding, so the police department recommends people in low-lying areas evacuate. The flooding is expected to hit around 2 p.m. tomorrow. Waterville High School will be available as a shelter. The areas most likely to be affected will be concentrated on Broadway from approximately 24th Street south to 1st Street. Police also expect flooding at 787 23rd Street interchange.
Up until now, it's likely you've never heard the words tropical and North Adams, Massachusetts mentioned in the same sentence.
Hardly ever. But tonight, those words are not only forever linked, they're also indelibly etched into the memories of residents. Dan Levy continues our team coverage live from the newsroom. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening, Jim and Benita. You know, especially fitting are the words tropical depression. That's not only what pounded away at the Berkshires today, it also happens to describe the mental anguish that many of the people there are left to deal with. For people like Christine Koskowski, this is what it's like living on a hillside in North Adams, the last place on Earth she'd ever expect to be hit by a tropical storm.
Never, never. And this is really scary.
That's because the backyard restraining wall that usually diverts Mount Greylock's runoff was simply overwhelmed by Irene.
Trees and objects floating down the road. I thought my car was going to wash away. If my car wasn't where it was, it probably would have gone down the hill.
So powerful was the runoff, a manhole cover at the foot of her driveway was tossed clear across the road like a tiddlywink.
The only severe storms we get here are snowstorms, nor'easters, so I don't think we were really prepared for this, you know, and just like the drain pipes aren't meant for this much water, you know.
Down the road in Adams, Massachusetts, residents were saying the Hoosick River in their community isn't meant to handle this much water. When was the last time you saw the river like this?
Never did. Never, never, never did.
Did you ever think a hurricane would affect you in Adams, Massachusetts?
Not after they put the walls up. No. It's really unbelievable.
It was unbelievable throughout Berkshire County. In Pittsfield, for example, where the Housatonic River overflowed a causeway on Lebanon Avenue, and in Beckett, where tree limbs were broken off, utility poles toppled, and power lines left dangling on Brooker Hill Road. Here in North Adams, this used to be someone's front lawn. The front lawn has become a huge ditch, and what used to be the front lawn has washed down over this restraining wall and is now firmly planted in the middle of State Street.
You have to prepare everything. Water, yes. And it was busy at Walmart, let me tell you. I don't ever want to see a bad hurricane, never.
Many people in Berkshire County told me today they were well informed. They knew the storm was coming and they felt well prepared as they could be. But judging by their reaction to the volume and the velocity of the water rushing through their communities, they weren't prepared to see the sights that they saw. So clearly, tropical depression and the Berkshires will never be synonymous. Live in the newsroom, Dan Levy, News Channel 13.
Thank you, Dan.
And it's nice to have you back here, Dan, because Dan had some trouble making it back from Berkshire County tonight.
He got stuck in Grafton. Route 2 shut down after part of the road that Dan was traveling on washed away. You can see the damage caused by the rushing water here. Large chunks of concrete broke away, leaving gaping holes in the road. And it's still difficult to get around in many places tonight. Interstate 890 is closed this evening between Exit 5 and Exit 2 in Schenectady County. And the Thruway closed both directions between Exits 27 and 28, also northbound between Exits 7 and 21, and southbound between Exits 12 and 24. You can find those updates on our website. Click on News Links and look for the New York State Thruway link.
Well, the news, though, is better for Amtrak. We got word early this evening. Most of the Northeast Regional service has already resumed, except for the service between Boston and Philadelphia. At the Albany International Airport, all service resumes at 5:45 tomorrow morning. At least 95% of today's departures and arrivals were canceled. Well, we got some incredible pictures from Lake George today. This house is across the street from the Fran Cove Motel. The road that's washed away crosses the English Brook. The motel also flooded. National Grid tells us some 140,000 customers are without power tonight in the capital region, and it could be days before they're back online. The spokesman tells me the conditions were so rough during the storm, they just couldn't do much repair work, so they're assessing the damage tonight. But with hundreds of crews at the ready, he tells me they'll be going full tilt in the morning. NYSEG says 5,000 of their customers are without power in the capital region, and like National Grid, NYSEG expects it to be days before all the power is restored.
We've got much more on the effects of Hurricane Irene tonight.
We're going to show you some of the devastation from Schenectady, Latham, and New York City. But first, here's Tim.
Well, Benita and Jim, things have slowly been improving over the last several hours. First morning live Doppleretta showing the showers starting to diminish as they continue to trend north and east. Winds are easing up as well. Gusts only at 38 miles per hour at the top of the hour at Albany International. Sunshine's on the way. Let the drying process begin. Your first 1-in-70 forecast is coming up at the break. But heading into the break, yeah, a picture can say 1,000 words. Check out some of these.
Now, your first warning weather with meteorologist Tim Drawbridge.
Well, as the National Weather Service's campaign ends up being, don't drown, go around. And I believe this driver ended up paying attention to that. Yes, only 6 inches of water can sweep you off your feet. 2 feet of water can actually float a car away. And as we've been checking out some of the YouTube and Facebook videos throughout the day, indeed, that is true. A few more pictures, in fact, a dozen of them, starting up at Lake George with trees and power lines down. Thinking of our friend Cindy. Then again, a bit of a fire starting up along Western Avenue. Thinking of Tricia with that shot. As we make our way toward Carroll Main Street, yeah, flooding from one of the creeks down that way. Thinking of Al posting that on Facebook at about noon, 1 o'clock this afternoon. And then the village docks at Lake George. The south end, reportedly those docks have been damaged. And look at Beach Road there on the south end of Lake George, completely flooded over earlier this afternoon. Then we head to the Mohawk River. Thinking of Rebecca, Lock 12 on the Mohawk River. Not, I think, a bit of a wait, but Mother Nature obviously doing a good job there. And then our friend Snapshot over in Saratoga County, Mr. Kevin capturing Rock City Falls with the creeks running high in Cohoes Falls. We typically see this scene in what, April? Not August. And our last shots coming from Bridget as you make your way toward Byrne, the intersection of 443 and 156. Steve in the south end of Saratoga Lake, yeah, the canopy's a bit damaged. And then the last shot, who likes to barbecue with maybe some late season corn. Yeah, the cornfields in Claverick are definitely rain-filled for sure, and we'll see how some of the crops ended up faring as we head throughout the next several days. If you got a cool shot, let us know. Send it to us at weatherphoto@WNYT.com or tag one of our respective Facebook pages, the stations, WNYT in capitals, the N and the C of NewsChannel capitalized 13, again on Facebook. 71, 65 the temperatures in terms of highs and lows for today. A record one-day rainfall. 4.69 as of last check with the Weather Service office over at the airport, dialing into the ASOS unit. The departure for the year now, 12 inches on the plus side, and for the month, we're now in second place, and that's probably where we're going to remain as we head throughout the next couple of days with the dry weather. Over 13 inches of rain, that is the top spot out of East Durham. Over a dozen inches of rain at East Jewett, 10 inches at South Durham with Schoharie County with some very high rain totals as well. 9 inches out of Savoy, 692 out of Kinderhook and Gansford up in Saratoga County at 675. Wind gusts today, the highest out of Albany International at 54, as now Irene has gone extra tropical as it's made its way from downstate New York and the Carolinas yesterday through New England and heading toward the St. Lawrence Seaway. How about high pressure moving on in? Dry weather, pleasant weather. We'll let you know. First 1-in-70 forecast is coming up in 30 seconds. Stay tuned. Well, high pressure gradually builds in as we head through the overnight period, meaning a sunny start to your Monday, calling it sunny to partly cloudy as we head throughout the day for tomorrow. Highs in the Adirondacks in the mid-60s, same deal in the Catskills into the mid-70s in many locations in the Hudson Valley. We'll continue the nice weather over the next several days. And it'll be a great pattern after what we've dealt with over the last 24 hours. Let the drying process, or what we'll say in the weather department, let the evaporation begin. The showers come to an end here over the next hour or two. Then we'll look for clearing, and yes, it becomes less windy as well, although at 53 in Albany. Sunny to partly cloudy, pleasant as we head through the day for your Monday, a high of 74. We continue the sunshine. We increase the temperatures back into the upper 70s, near 80 come Tuesday and Wednesday. Mixed sun and clouds on Thursday. The dry weather at this point in time lasts into the first full weekend of September.
Wow.
Yeah. That's pretty much all you can say.
The storm rocked us enough, and now it's September.
Yeah, I know. Sorry to throw that one at you, too.
And, you know, the wind has really been a big part of the problem now, hasn't it, in terms of moving the water along?
We talked about how the wind would end up playing a role with the trees. You got the rain with the soil, even if you didn't see the top layers of the soil being moist.
The bulldozer effect you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, that bulldozer effect. The wind hitting the top of the trees, building downward, and kaboom, knocking them right over.
Okay. Well, Tim, thanks. I mean, yeoman's job, all of you, keeping an eye on this.
Yeah, from the entire weather department. Good job, guys. We continue now our look around the capital region. The aftermath of Irene. The storm carved a path of destruction in Schenectady County and in Latham.
There were downed trees and power lines, and then add to that flooding of some major roadways, and in some cases, roads just washed away. News Channel 13's Dan Bazil has that part of the story.
Massive trees uprooted as if they were small plants and crashed down on homes, causing damage. This one at the corner of Chestnut Lane and Glenwood Drive in Latham. It looks like the tree branches went through the roof. And on Fiddler Lane, another tree in another house. The homeowner and her family inside at the time say they felt the house shake.
It was a huge boom. Both the big trees that came down were big. They both were loud.
Pam Pasamato is still trying to assess the damage. The house is up for sale, and she's not sure how things will play out.
I've already called the insurance, so they're aware. They have a lot of claims coming in.
And in parts of Schenectady, downed trees and power lines were also an issue. We found them on Union Street and Grand Avenue and McClellan Street. This one fell on a house in the Stockade on Ferry Street, taking down some power lines that were still arcing and most likely caused a small fire.
I didn't think it was going to be as bad as it is. There's trees down, fire. We luckily have power.
A number of roads were closed because they were impassable, either because of downed trees, wires, or flooding. This is Weaver Street in Schenectady next to 890 at the height of the storm. Right now I'm staying in about a foot of water, and in there it's even deeper. As you can see, there is no more road here. The road has turned into a river with water rushing through it like rapids. Broadway, a major thoroughfare, was also shut down due to flooding. But even with those conditions, some people would not let that keep them from going outdoors.
It's a little bit tamer than what I experienced. I was prepared for the worst, and it's not like what I was expecting.
Dan Bazil, News Channel 13.
Nearly 400,000 evacuated New York City residents are now being told they can head home. Major flooding hit all 5 boroughs, but Mayor Michael Bloomberg says the city made it through the storm fairly well. However, odds are good that most of New York's transit system will not be up and running in time for tomorrow's commute.
Despite Irene, it was play ball in most of the country. Andrew will recap the day in sports.
But first, a look at more of the pictures you've been sending us today.